to do their stuff.
I think Jay's the future Mr. Olympia, to be honest, Brian. He's only 27-year-old and he's showing a lot of mature muscle.
Well, from Jay Cutler to Franco Lecastro, the Canadian champion. Another competitor here in Britain for this Grand Prix. And as we said, the world's best here. And just look at this. This is their first appearance on stage, Kerry. And they're really just out here showing the audience exactly what to expect later on.
Yeah, and don't forget, he's probably travelled 8,000 miles for this show.
And now the biggest man in the show, Günther Schierkamp from Germany. Former German champion, Kerry. And this guy really is a big man.
Yeah, he's well over 20 stone. I think he's about 20 stone, 10 pound.
And again, just teasing the audience, showing the judges. Not judging yet, of course, but just here to impress. Next from Puerto Rico, Gustavo Bedell, the Puerto Rican champion. And also, Kerry, he's president of the Puerto Rican Federation of Bodybuilders.
Yeah, he's a man who wears two hats. He's a competitor and an official. Most officials get into officiating shows after the competition days, but this man does both.
Man who clearly loves his bodybuilding. Avis Besokis from Latvia, the Latvian champion. This man, over 40s competitor, Kerry.
Yeah, he competed last year in the over 40s Mr. Olympia, so it shows that the sport's getting younger, I would say.
A great competitor. Well, next on stage from Sheffield in England, Peter Brown, former British champion and making his second professional appearance, Kerry.
Yeah, he did this show last year and he had a great first outing and he's come with a lot of improvements.
Well, from a former British champion to a current British champion, Gary Lister, man who recently won that British title at heavyweight, and Kerry looking in better shape here.
Yeah, it's his first pro show.
Now, here's a man, Markus Rühl from Germany. This man, well, he's thrown everything in the face of bodybuilding. All he's interested in, Kerry, is just how big he can be, isn't he?
Yeah, just muscle, that's all this man wants to do.
And a real favourite with the crowd here. And after Marcus?
Oval Burke from the USA. He got third earlier on in the year in the Night of the Champions, which was a great outing for him. This man's 39-year-old, Brian.
Incredible. It just shows the sport of bodybuilding alive and well. Just look at the width of his back there. And now on stage, the man himself, 3 times Mr. Olympia, the very best in the world, Ronnie Coleman from the USA.
Yeah, Texas policeman.
And he really is a man at the top of his form and the top of the game at the minute, isn't he, Kerry?
Yeah, this is the man that they all measure themselves by, Brian.
And look at that. You can see he just oozes self-confidence. He knows he's the best. Tremendous physique and tremendous stage presence, Kerry.
Very much so. He's been about a long time, Brian. It didn't come easy.
Well, just showing the dedication and hard work. Next, perhaps the smallest man in the show, the British middleweight champion and overall champion this year, Mike King. Incredible physique.
Yeah, 12 stone 8, Brian. 12 stone 8 this man weighs.
But that physique really tuned to perfection now.
Very, very balanced. That's his strengths.
And from Mike to Tommy Torvaldsson from Norway, 3 times Norwegian champion and Scandinavian champion, now living in Britain and training with Dorian Yates.
Yeah, he moved to Dorian to further his career and he's doing well at the Temple Gym.
And then from Scotland, Steve Crichton, former Mr. Universe and current Scottish champion, another seasoned competitor, Kerry.
Yeah, again, he's in his late 30s. It's just very interesting now that bodybuilders seem to be getting older with younger physiques, Brian.
Yeah, well, testimony again to the nutrition and science of bodybuilding. And now from England, Dennis Francis, a man here making his first professional appearance, Kerry.
Well, he's only been a professional 2 hours. He won the amateur lineup 2 hours earlier.
And then we come to Dennis James from Thailand. He owns a gym in Thailand. And really watch out for this man when it comes to the free posing. He really is some free poser, isn't he, Kerry?
Well, he knows how to entertain the crowd, and this is good for bodybuilding. It's not just the formal poses. The man knows how to milk the audience, Brian.
And the theatre here packed with a very, very knowledgeable and enthusiastic audience. And our final competitor, the French champion, Serge Dessel. And again, completing this incredible lineup, Kerry.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about this gentleman. I saw him a couple of weeks earlier, but that's all I really know about him. But he's obviously very polished.
Well, as Serge takes his place on the podium with the other 15 competitors. This, the lineup for the greatest bodybuilding show ever seen in Great Britain. Join us in part 2 when we really will see these guys locking horns. You join us now as Jay Cutler, the American champion, takes his people out on stage for the individual posing round. And look at him look already, Kerry. He's out in the audience. Come on, let's go.
I'm very impressed with this man, you know, 27-year-old, probably the most perfect balance. Legs, calves, waist, shoulder width, arm, very perfect. Good condition. I happen to know that he's 12 pound lighter than the Olympia 8 days earlier. He placed 8th at the Olympia, as I said, in Las Vegas 8 days ago. He wasn't happy with that, and he's actually come in a lot tighter for this show.
Well, Jay Cutler, just look how much he's enjoying this being out on stage. Strutting his stuff in front of the crowd, look. And you can hear their response. As you said, Kerry, a fantastic balance in this physique, isn't there?
Yeah, he's really got it right. He's obviously trained with balance in mind over the years, and if there's been a lagging body part, he's probably worked on it. If there's been a body part that's advancing more than others, he's probably eased off on it, because it's so obvious. Look at the hamstrings, everything's there. Now he's showing his glutes and hamstrings to let the people know how low in the body fat area he is. Look at the back, the Christmas tree.
Yes, incredible.
You'll see the Christmas tree now. You can see where the lats start to flare out to the shoulders.
Yes. Well, I have to say, even if you're not into muscle, you have to marvel at just how they take every single muscle in the human body. They have developed it, balanced it, and then actually got rid of everything in the way, apart from shedding their skin, Kerry, to make sure you can see it, haven't they?
Exactly. And I remember when I used to compete, I had a few injuries, and I went to a chiropractic to be popped out, and physiotherapists and chiropractors are amazed by bodybuilders, you know, just to see the moving physique.
Yes, I can imagine that people are not used to seeing this. Well, we come to the biggest man, just over 20 stones, from Germany, Gunter Scherlap.
Yes, now Gunter's a German champion. He's been around the pro scene for quite some time. He's never really got the results that I think his physique justifies. He's a little bit wide in the waist. If you notice him to Jay Cutler, the flare's not quite the same, and that's holding him back on some of his results.
Now, a lot of talk in bodybuilding is, of course, that famous expression, genetics, talking about that. Now, that is something where you'd have to say, this man, well, he's a massive guy, he has huge muscles, great definition, but actually, as you say, Kerry, they're slightly thick in the waist, and it stops the aesthetic quality of the physique, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what's always held him up, but he's always going to be a bit busy for professional, and he's always going to do well in shows from a crowd point of view, because 20 stone, 10 pound walking on stage is always going to be impressive, Brian.
Yes. As you said, look at the hamstrings there, back of the legs.
But you can see the thickening of the waist there in that shot when he turned around, and that does hold him back. Look at the size of his arms. I think it's important that when we slightly criticise these people, we're not, we're trying to do it so that people at home understand the physique's a little bit more, Brian.
Yes, I think it's very important too, Kerry, because this really is a sport that absorbs the competitors and stays with most of them for the rest of their lives, doesn't it, Kerry?
Yes. But don't forget, there's a lot of other sports lift weights, Brian, and they look at these lads and just see that they've took the weightlifting side to the extremes.
Yep. And the whole purpose of it, not just to get big muscles, as we've said so many times, but actually develop a really balanced physique.
There's the most muscular, which is a great shot for him. The trouble with Gunter is, once he puts his arms in the air, you can see the width of his waist. When his arms go down, it hides that.
Well, we go from Gunter there to former British champion in his first professional show, Peter Brown from Sheffield, a man who you said, Kerry, has improved, and I have to say I do agree with you, improved enormously from last year.
Yeah, look at Peter now, and as I said, and it was never a criticism of Peter, we thought that his presentation could have been better last year, and he's really worked at it, you can tell, and he's actually looking as if he's enjoying himself, which will reflect on his decision, I'm sure.
Yeah, and they do enjoy themselves out here, but you have to be a showman. I mean, this is a packed house in here, and there's nothing else for him to look at but this guy's physique, is there, Kerry?
No, there's probably 1,500 people looking at him now.
Just look at him, look, he's enjoying that attention as well. And of course, fully conscious, although the crowd are the people making all the noise, it's actually those judges sitting right down in front he's really trying to impress.
Look at the thickness of his back and look at his arms. He's probably got one of the biggest set of arms in the show, you know, Brian.
Yeah, they certainly are hugely impressive. Guns, I think they're referred to in the trade, aren't they, Kerry?
Yeah, set of guns. But look at the thickness of his back.
Yeah, incredible. Well, now Gary Lister, British champion. First pro show for Gary. And as you said, improved from his performance at the British.
Yeah, I think he has actually. It looks a little bit thicker to me. I don't know what he's weighing. But look at the separation in his legs, Brian. And look at the shoulder width to his waist. I think that's a perfect example about Gunter. Look at the flare of Gary. I'm trying to remember Gunter's flare. Gary's is obviously a lot better.
Yes, so just looking at his physique, because he's got the broad shoulders and narrow waist,
yes.
Even though Gunter's actually bigger, this looks a better physique, better balanced.
Well, Gunter's probably 3 stone heavier than Gary, but doesn't look it. And look at the detail in Gary's chest there, the split in his pecs. Fabulous bodybuilder, fabulous bodybuilder.
And again, even that split in the pecs, right down the centre of the chest there, that can be too wide on some people. Nothing you can do about it if they don't attach onto the sternum that close.
Well, exactly, and bodybuilding's about your symmetry on your overall shape and the muscle attachments, the bellies of the muscles, and then the rest of it's in your hands, what you can build and what body fat you can get off you. But there's a few things that are just out of your control.
And we heard you allude to it with Gunter, that of course, even the posing, you have to work on trying to cover any weaknesses you might have and really play to your strengths.
Yeah, but that only works in the posing routine. Don't forget the comparisons are designed so the judges can see your strengths and your weaknesses.
Yes, that's right. The judges really calling those poses. This one, they choose it themselves. They choose the music. They work on the routine. They work out which poses they want to hit. Well, we go from Gary to a man the crowd absolutely love and a guy who really just is into huge muscles. Markus Rühl from Germany.
Now, you know, here's another example. Markus has just decided to put muscle on wherever he can, whenever he can, and forget the aesthetics. Markus just wants to put meat on, and the crowd love him for that. But it sometimes holds him back in the judging. But look at the muscle bellies. Look at the split across the chest, Brian.
Oh, just look at his shoulders as well, Kerry, and his apparent lack of neck. I'm not sure whether he doesn't have a neck or whether his chest is that high up. It makes it look like he doesn't have one.
Well, I don't think he's going to be wearing a collar and tie, do you?
No, but look at those deltoids as well, the muscles on the top of the arm, the shoulder muscles. We talked about that bowling ball deltoids, and you really can see why they use that expression with this man.
Look at his triceps, the way they're twisting round in that pose.
Triceps, the muscles on the back of the arms, for those of you who are not as aware perhaps as Kerry K's.
But also you can tell that he could have been in better condition. If you look when he turned round there, his glutes and his lower back was carrying a little bit of body fat. He's a lot tighter from the front than he is from the back, and that's going to go against him as well.
Yes, these judges, as we've said before, very experienced men and women. They know exactly what they're looking for, down to the fact they almost ignore the strengths, don't they, Kerry, and look for the weaknesses, I would imagine.
Well, sometimes when everything's being equal and you're finding it hard to split a decision, if you look for some weaknesses in one physique, that can make the decision. But if you look at his glutes there, his body fat's not quite as low as some of the lads in this show.
And the glutes, of course, the bottom. Looking at that, the biggest muscle in the human body, I think, Kerry.
And the strongest.
And the strongest, yes.
But believe it or not, I'm looking at him and being critical of his body fat, Brian. It's quite amazing, isn't it? You see what I mean there, Brian? You can see it now.
Yep. As you said, Kerry, just not quite as tight from the back to the front, and this a contest about physical perfection, remember. So whilst it may impress all of us, actually the judges know what they're looking for.
Well, Orville Burke, this man, this is a 39-year-old Brian. He's only come on the scene in the last year, the professional scene.
And Orville here, again, out doing his stuff for the crowd. Look at that chest, Kerry.
Yeah, and if we're fortunate enough to see him put his hands above his head in a front or back double bicep, you'll see he's probably got the best taper in the show. That's shoulder width to waist. You can see it once it's spread out now. Look at that for taper. Now compare that with Gunter. See what I mean, Brian?
Yes, yeah. I mean, it really is ridiculous, Kerry. He's twice as wide, and the shoulders are at the waist, at least.
Tremendous taper. That's a most muscular shot. Very, very good.
Orville Burke, again, a man clearly in great form, fabulous physique, and really showing the crowd what's what here. Well, Kerry, very, very competitive, a real mind-boggling show of muscles. And look at him, look, still milking the crowd.
Yeah, we all thought he'd finished then, and he's obviously done that on purpose.
Yeah. Teased us and the crowd. No, just look at it, look, he's enjoying being out there. Look, look, look.
Oh, the man's got rhythm.
Yeah. And again, change of tempo here. He's moved forwards to the front of the stage now, moving to the right of the stage.
Yes, I was in Las Vegas 10 days ago and was fortunate to have a look at Oval before he went on stage at the Olympia. I was very, very impressed with him.
Look at that, you can see the depth in the legs as well there, Kerry, just as he walks across stage.
Yeah, I wonder where he's been, because as I said, he's obviously done a lot in the amateur ranks, but he's only been in the professional ranks about a year. And look at this back, Brian, look at that back.
As you said, Kerry, one of the best differentials in the business. Look at the difference between the lats and the waist.
Yes.
Well, Orville Burke then, a man clearly in great form. And we'll take a short break, but join us after the break when we'll be back with Mr. Olympia, Ronnie Coleman.
Thank you, Orville Burke.
Welcome back to the Apollo Manchester for the English Grand Prix, and walking out on stage now, the best in the world. Will he be the best in the show tonight? Mr. Olympia himself, Mr. Ronnie Coleman. And just take a moment just to look at the sheer size and depth of his muscles, balance of the physique. It's all there, Kerry.
Yeah, well, that's the perfect example. Very balanced, good taper, quads matches upper body, very big muscle bellies, as you'll see by his bicep there, and very low body fat. He's got everything.
Yes, and when we look at this, Kerry, I mean, you just have to marvel at the amount of muscle they pack onto their frames. But of course, these guys are people who are naturally thick and chunky anyway, aren't they? But they spend a lot of time lifting weights, adding to that muscle bulk that they have.
Well, genetically, they've got the ability to be big and bulky, but I mean, there are some guys that have made remarkable things with their physiques. But like, Ronnie's been about for about 10 years, you know, and he's one of the only Mr. Olympias that's been beaten many, many times. Not in the last 3 years, he's won everything. But he actually competed in the first show that Dorian Yates won back in 92, 93.
This is a real, as you said, Texas policeman who is a great example of what can happen if you continue to train intelligently, look after the nutrition, make sure you're giving your body what it needs to grow these big muscles, Kerry.
Well, that's my point. I don't honestly believe it's come easy to Ronnie. He's been a professional for getting on 10 years, and it's only the last 3 years that he's actually got the results that his physique deserves, but it's a completely different physique now.
Just look how much he's enjoying it. And watch also how he milks the pose. Look, he's there, and then suddenly he hits it. Teasing you, no, not yet, he's saying, look. Come on, he's saying to the crowd. You want to see it? I'm the best there is now.
Look at the glutes. Remember what I mentioned earlier about Marcus Roux?
Yeah.
You can see the glutes there, you can see how his body fat's so lower.
Tighter he is, yes. And look at this, look. The legs, well, they're tense, but actually it's the arms and shoulders he's drawing us to, isn't he, in the back there, look.
Yeah, but he's not going to tense half his body. He's going to show his full physique at its best at all times.
And that's what your body looks like when your body fat's down to a very, very low percentage, isn't it, Kerry?
Yes. He knows it as well.
Yes, he does. Look. Look at him at the crowd, look.
Well, it's hard for you to believe this, Brian, but 8 days earlier at the Mr. Olympia in Vegas, he was actually a little bit tighter. the travelling's telling on his physique. He was actually tighter.
Actually, Kerry, I did notice that. The first thing I thought when I saw him on stage. But look at it, look. The crowd love it. He loves being out there. And no doubt about it, the judges can't help but be impressed by this man. What a physique he has built. Where are the weaknesses? That's what you've got to ask yourself. If you're looking at each muscle group and the way they fit together, the upper body, the lower body, the midsection, where is the weakness?
He's got no weaknesses. That's why he's Mr. Olympia, Brian.
Yeah. Well, the traffic cop from Texas comes to Manchester and just wows the crowd and I think the judges. What a showman, Kerry, as well.
Yeah, I think he's going out later with Greater Manchester Police and dishing a few tickets out as well, Brian.
But you have to say as well, Kerry, having met this chap myself, he is a real gentleman and a real ambassador for the sport, isn't he?
Well, I think he's very conscious of the position he's in. And he's obviously a policeman, so he knows all about public relations, Brian, and he's used that to the best ability in the sport.
Yeah. And still out on stage, look, still hitting those poses, still loving it, just teasing the crowd. There. Well, and then stroll across the stage.
I think what he's waving his hand there, the crowd's probably quiet, but in amazement, Brian.
Stunned into silence, and who can blame them, really?
Yeah.
No matter what sport you look at, when you see the very best, Kerry, you can't help but be impressed. They make it all look so easy, so natural.
This is why they're champions, Brian. A couple of last poses now, Brian.
Yes, the music stopped. Actually, that means effectively his routine is over. But look, the crowd now starting to say, well, show us more. Don't leave us. Don't leave us. Well, from the best in the world to the best in Britain, the overall champion of 2000, Mike King, first professional show, Kerry.
Yeah, as I said, Mike won the British, and it enabled him to get his professional card. And he's obviously not going to miss this opportunity of competing for the first time with the best in the world in Manchester. You've got to understand as well, in the normal circumstances, Ronnie Coleman only competes at the Mr. Olympia and the Grand Prix Tour. So if Mike was to compete later on in the year or earlier in the year, the chances are Ronnie wouldn't be there. So to stand on stage with Ronnie Coleman is a real privilege for Mike.
Yeah. And it gives us a great opportunity here too, Kerry, to see the difference in physiques. If you saw this guy on his own, you'd say, well, what an incredible set of muscles. How could anybody be more muscular than that? And yet there you see Ronnie Coleman on stage, and he is much, much bigger. Mike, though, I have to say, in fabulous shape.
Well, in credit to Mike, you've got to realise that Ronnie is about 6 stone heavier than Mike, but he's not putting Mike out of place. Mike's holding his own, although he's never going to beat Ronnie, but he's not embarrassing himself, which is fabulous for Mike King.
Well, far from embarrassing himself, Kerry, as you said, this is the overall British champion this year. The crowd loving it. He's enjoying himself out there.
Fabulous. Look at those calves. He's 6 stone lighter, but his calves are just as good as Ronnie, and that's what he's showing the audience there.
Yes, yeah. Quads well separated. Well, now we come to, from Norway, Tommy Torkelson. There's a man who came over, as you said, to Britain, trains in Dorian Yates's gym, and has made great progress, Kerry.
Very much, but to be honest, the guest spot that Tommy did last year, he was probably in a little bit better condition than this. That's not to say Tommy's not in great condition, he obviously is, but Tommy was a little bit tighter than last year, and it's going to reflect on his result, I think.
Yes, it's so difficult for those who are not experts in the sport to see the difference between them, but obviously that's one of the things that you can bring to the party here, Kerry, because you have a great eye for this, you know the sport, you know the competitors. Spot these very, very small differences, but just watch this now.
Not bad for an 18 stone man, Brian.
Yes, and he said these guys want athletes in every sense of the word.
See the glutes, Brian?
Yeah.
And
that's one of the measures of tightness, isn't it, Kerry? There are
much.
certain key body parts, Kerry, that give away things like that body fat percentage we talked about. How low are we talking in body fat percentage, Kerry, for the guys on stage?
Well, there's a lot of exaggeration, and you hear all sorts about 3% and all that. The reality is 5 or 6% would be in very, very good condition, like Gary Lister or Ronnie Coleman.
So we're talking about 5 or 6% of their total body weight coming from their body fat. The rest is muscle and bone, blood and so on. Well, Steve Crichton from Scotland on stage. And as we talked about that 5 or 6% body fat, here's another man who's right down there on the limit.
Oh, Steve's got it bang on the day, look at him. And also he's dry. Can you see the dryness of Steve's physique? It's very hard for you to probably understand what I'm trying to get across, but he's low on body fat and looks dry. Look at these striations in his glutes.
Yeah. As Kerry said, if you look there at his bottom, if you like, the gluteus muscles, that's one of the things that the experts will look at, because if you can see those cross striations, the lines in the muscle, that shows you the body fat's really, really low.
Yeah, and Steve's been at it a long time. I think Steve's 38-year-old, you know, Brian. And it seems to me that the bodybuilding, the athletes are getting older these days. They seem to be peaking older these days, which is fabulous.
Well, it's great to see, isn't it? See these people still in the sport, see them still enjoying it, the crowd enjoying it, and still making improvements. And I suppose it's a testimony really to to the bodybuilding lifestyle, Kerry, and what it can do for people.
I think it's the advances in nutrition and training styles and training equipment, Brian. It's the sport's moved on dramatically. So athletes are being able to peak at a later age.
Well, Steve Crichton leaves stage. Dennis Francis now on stage. And Dennis, as you said earlier, been a pro for a very, very short space of time, Kerry.
He's been a pro for about an hour. Maybe 2 at the most. And I've got a lot of respect for Dennis Francis. He just goes along his business year in, year out. He's won some shows, he's had some knocks, but he's just there all the time. And he's from Derby in the Midlands. And every year Dennis Francis has always been there, and a nice guy as well.
And Kerry, in terms of training, how do they break their training week up? How many sessions are we talking and what are they trying to do?
Well, the reality is when you get to this level, you can actually train your muscles very intensely, very short periods. So these guys actually only do their bodybuilding training maybe 45 minutes to an hour, maybe 4 or 5 times a week. But that hour is very, very productive training. And here we've got Dennis James from Thailand, and Dennis will milk the crowd. Look at Dennis's pose, and he tries to put a bit of entertaining into it.
He does too. Just look at this guy. What a showman and what a routine.
Yeah, he's got rhythm, hasn't he?
Well, reasonably hard little steps and moves to do without actually showing your muscles, but he's doing that at the same time to great effect, Kerry.
Yeah, you've got to realise when people dance like that, they have a very relaxed body. Dennis can't do that, so he's doing them sort of movements with a very tense body to show his muscles off. He'll throw in some traditional bodybuilding poses as well, so that he doesn't, forget that he's here to show the judges as well. So he's trying to split his routine between the crowd and the judges.
Yep. And a very impressive physique, it has to be said, Kerry. A lot of muscle packed on that frame.
Yeah, he's not a tall man, he's only about 5'7". Who said the food was no good in Thailand?
Well, so we watch Dennis there. Look, and he's still saying to the crowd, "Do you want more? Otherwise, I'm going." Let's hear it from you. Well, as Dennis James from Thailand leads the stage, we leave you, but join us after the break. Competitors all back out on stage for the presentation of medals here at the English Grand Prix. And as they come out again, the best lineup seen in Britain for many a year, Kerry.
Yeah, and there's quite a few helpers that have worked very hard over the day. Graham Black, Vanessa, Andy Ardle there. And they're just getting their little bit of moment of thanks. Brian back to the door. Just to show the appreciation how hard they've worked in the day to put this show on.
And the competitors have enjoyed being here. They have enjoyed the crowd's response. Of course, it's not over yet. So the competitors then, some of them, this their last moment out on stage, Kerry, because we're going to move down to the final 6, aren't we?
When all the medals are presented, the guys are going to pile up and we're going to come back with the top 6.
I'm sure they're going to throw a few poses though.
But I'm sure you'd like to see
well, they've worked hard enough to be here, Kerry. Then the crowd have enjoyed them.
How
So
about it, guys? Come on.
yes, they will want to hit a few more poses. And the crowd will definitely want them to. There's no doubt about that.
No, it's a shame now. This is a big anticlimax for some of the lads because there's only going to be 6 called out now.
So the guys can hit a few poses.
Yeah,
And you can see the ones. You can see the ones taking the medals off who just want to do it to the very end and do it professionally. Gary Lister walking forward there. He's had a great season. Stood next to Gunter. You can just see the difference in size if you look. It's a good shot, man. Oval.
And look at them all trying to squeeze through. Give me a space.
Come on, Peter. Get under there, lad. Yeah, Peter's not going to be left out.
Look at Joe Cutler. Just look at that. He's saying.
I think you can see the size of some of the lads that Marcus Rue there. These monsters compared to some of them. And when you see them individually, you don't realise.
You can see, look at them. They're enjoying being out on stage. They're enjoying being together. This is a big club, isn't it?
Yeah. They've got respect for each other. That's very, very important. Because each one of them know what the other's gone through.
In no particular order.
Dorian Yates, 6 times Mr. Olympia now, about to announce the final 6 competitors. Jay Cutler, Marcus Rule, Orville Burke, Ronnie Coleman, and Dennis James. Those are the top 6 here And of course they're now in the pose down. The judges marking this one, Kerry, very seriously.
Yeah, but I think the competitors know, and the competitors have walked off stage and gone into the crowd to, and look at the crowd, they can't believe it. And they're just milking it. These are real professionals.
Yeah, this packed house here, they will be enjoying this, but actually look, there he is, right down in amongst the crowd. And actually you can see there's a fair few bodybuilders in the crowd, but look at the reception they're getting. Just walked off stage, never mind the judges for 5 minutes. What about the spectators? What about the people who paid to come and watch us? These are the people who keep the sport going.
Of course they are, and that's how we need to support the sport.
And of course, in this competition, let's not forget there's $10,000 prize money for the first place. This, as we said, a pro show, $7,000 for second, $5,000 for third, $3,000 for fourth, $2,000 for fifth, and $1,000 for sixth position. So there's money at stake here. And more than that, there is reputations on the line.
And obviously Ronnie Coleman winning the Mr. Olympia 8 days earlier, Brian, it would be a big fall from the top of the tree.
And I have to say, just looking at him on stage, it's hard to see how he's going to fall.
No, I think he's pretty much wedged in that tree, don't you?
Yes, he is.
Sixth place, presenting the trophy is Jill Feathers and Paul House.
6 times Mr. Olympia, Dorian Yates. One of the greats, if not the greatest of all time in bodybuilding.
Goes to number 9, Orville Burke.
On stage. So we have 6th place.
Jill Feathers and Paul House presenting it. Orville Burke there, they'll be disappointed in that.
And he's smiling for the crowd, look, but
Jill's having a baby, as you can see. She's working on her midsection.
well,
presenting the prize, $2,000.
Exhausted from the evening's work.
5th place is Paul Smith.
So we come to
And now we'll go
5th place then.
Marcus Rule.
And as we've said, Marcus Rule, well, he finishes in 5th. And look, he's acknowledging at the crowd, saying, well, I know the way the judging works here, but listen, you've enjoyed seeing me, and I certainly enjoyed being in this kind of condition.
Yeah, Paul Smith, a local man from Portsmouth, who's presented the trophy. And the crowd booed there, but, you know, the crowd just like muscle, they like meat, and, you know, the judges have got other things to think about.
Yes, they have.
Presenting the 4th place
Just look at the glutes there as he walks off on those striations, missing, as you said, Kevin.
$3,000. And goes to Gunther Schlurkamp.
So, in 4th place then, from Germany, Gunther Schlurkamp, and as you said, Kerry, you can see there, you get a good shot of that waist, just a little too thick, really.
Jim and Satty Bolton presenting the trophy there. And Gunther will be very, very happy beating Marcus and Orville Burke. Very happy.
Yeah, he's had a great night. The crowd have loved seeing him. Remember, 20 stones, 10 pounds of solid muscle packed on that ground.
Presenting the prize for 3rd place, $5,000.
So we come to 3rd, $5,000 for this one.
And that's going
Who's
to
it
go
gonna
to Dennis James.
Dennis James.
Don't forget, he finished out of the top 10 8 days ago at the Olympia, so he'll be really pleased with that, Dennis.
And I think, Kerry, I'm safe in saying that there will be no surprises at the last 2 men left on stage.
No, I don't think so. Steve Riddick there, a British champion, and Paula Birkinshaw on the left, female professional bodybuilder from many years ago. Well, not too many, Paula, sorry.
Dennis there, again, just hitting a few more poses before he leaves with that trophy and that cheque for $5,000. But it's the top 2 left on stage. Jay Cutler on the left, Ronnie Coleman on the right. Who's it going to be? Look at Jay, look, he's still saying, yeah, look at this,
he knows.
guys.
Jay knows.
$7,000.
Ronnie there looking very relaxed. I don't think he feels he's under pressure.
And that's going to go to Jay Cutler.
And there it is, from Dorian Yates. Jay Cutler in 2nd position.
Look at the respect they've got for each other. And there's a big name in the sport, Peter McGoffrey. He's the editor of Flex magazine in America, works for Joe Weider, Peter. So Peter's come over from Los Angeles to see the show. He's originated from Nottingham.
Well, not too far from home. So great to see him back, and great to see Jay Cutler. And just look at Ronnie Coleman.
It's still a relief, mate.
Yes, yeah, it's easy to forget sometimes. When you are the best, you put your head on the block all the time, and everybody's there to shoot at you. But tonight, this man, too much for everybody in this competition. In fact, too much for everybody else.
The real champion, inspiration to all of us. Presenting the prize, 1st place is Simon Robertson.
Ronnie waits for his prize.
Ronnie Coleman.
$10,000 and the trophy, and of course knowing that he has yet to be beaten.
Yeah, and it's presented by Simon Robinson, who probably commands as much respect in this theatre as any of them on stage. Simon got third in the World Championships, a British champion, had a terrible accident 2 years ago and lost one of his legs. But he's not even gone out of his stride, Simon. He's just a strong man, and he's gained so much respect from the bodybuilding world. And look at him, tremendous man.
Ronnie Coleman takes the title and the cheque. Will we see him on the 4th of November for the next English Grand Prix? But from me, Brian Hooper and Kerry Case, good night. And let's just now meet Kerry and co-promoter Dorian Yates. Second time around, and a much better show this year.
Yeah, it's a much better show, much better audience, a larger audience. Plus, I think people knew what to expect, because last year was our first time promoting the show. There hadn't been a show the previous year, so people really didn't know how the show was going to go. They didn't know the venue, and it was very successful last year, and this year's even better. And the atmosphere in here was incredible, and the guys, the athletes, I mean, they really put a lot of energy into the evening tonight.
Well, you can see they were enjoying themselves out here, and the crowd were as well. And Kerry, one of the things with the bodybuilding shows, it really is a family audience, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a family audience, and to be honest, it's a family team, and a lot of these guys have been to Manchester a few times because we've had them for last year's show and a few seminars, so I'm really pleased. I don't think the show was any different this year. I just think the audience was a lot better this year. The show was just as good.
Well, certainly the performers were. And Manchester again, choice of venue. Any thoughts on that one?
Well, me and Dorian's got to have a chat about it, but my vote's Manchester. What's yours after this, Dor?
Well, if it's not broke, don't fix it. That's what they're saying. I think it was okay tonight. And, you know, we got a tremendous team around us, as I was saying before, which we're lucky to have. Is like a family almost in the company. And a lot of the guys have been here before, and me and Kerry are both bodybuilders. Everybody that works for the company is a bodybuilder, so we know what the guys require, and they're very happy to come here, whereas other countries they go to, maybe they don't get the same kind of treatment. So the athletes always look forward to coming here.
I mean, that's pretty much a company policy, isn't it, Kerry? You try to be professional from start to finish.
Well, it's a bodybuilding supplement company run by the greatest bodybuilder in the world, and the manager John Hodgson's a professional. Scott Gledel, technical outlines, a British bodybuilding champion. I won the British Championship, so you've got to be a British champion to get a job at Chemical Nutrition.
Pretty high spec, but anyway, listen to both of you. Another great show, and hopefully we'll be back again next year.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks. We're looking forward to next year, definitely.
What about the future? You obviously would like to be Mr. Olympia as long as possible, presumably.
Well, I like to be Mr. Olympia forever, but of course it's going to come to an end one day, and I'm going to be just Ronnie Coleman, the regular guy. But I'm loving this sport. I love what I'm doing. I love the people. I really enjoy what I do, so I'm going to be here as long as I possibly can. They're going to have to run me out, you know, like they did all the rest of the guys.
That's great to hear. What about your colleagues in Arlington? What do they think about it?
Yeah, to be honest with you, those guys are so busy with their lives and trying to support their kids and trying to make money for their families and trying to feed their families. A lot of them don't really have time to keep up with me and what I'm doing and, you know, how I'm winning shows and stuff. They're not really into physical fitness. A lot of guys, like they said, a lot of guys, they just donut eating type, you know, going to work just to feed the family and stuff like that. They're not into sports.
Well, I bet you get a lot of respect on the streets of Arlington.
Oh, I get a ton of respect on the streets of Arlington. I've been there for 12 years now, and I've never had anybody want to challenge me. 12 years, and you know, a lot of people think that, you know, because I'm so big, that's the first thing people want to do. They want to challenge me, but it haven't happened yet.
It'd be a fool to take you on.
A big fool. A real big one.
Well, it's great to see you so happy, and thank you very much for talking to us. Go on for as many years as you possibly can. We love you being an ambassador of the sport. Thanks, Ronnie.
Certainly will. I'm glad to be here.
Thanks very much.
All right.